Welcome, explorers of the unknown, to Alternate Universe. Here we dig deep into the what-ifs of history and the future, untangling the intricate threads of cause and effect. We are your guides on this journey through the labyrinth of possibilities, where we will venture into the realms of the unthinkable and the yet-to-be. Today we are embarking on a chilling exploration, a journey into a terrifying hypothetical scenario. A nuclear war between India and Pakistan. Two nations separated by a thin line of border, but divided by a gulf of conflict. This isn't a tale of heroes and villains, but a reflection on the potential for human destruction and the resilience of our species. Buckle up, explorers, as we prepare to navigate through the dark corridors of a potential nuclear catastrophe. Remember, this is a hypothetical journey, a thought experiment designed to provoke reflection and inspire action. The future is not written in stone, and it is in our hands to ensure that this scenario remains firmly within the realm of the unthinkable. So, let's begin our journey into the belly of the beast, starting with an introduction to our unthinkable scenario. Have you ever wondered what would happen if two nuclear-armed nations went to war? An alarming question, isn't it? But not an unthinkable one. In a world where over 9 countries possess more than 13,000 nuclear weapons, it's a scenario that should concern us all. Nuclear weapons, some of the most devastating tools of destruction ever created by mankind, hold the power to obliterate cities, decimate populations, and render vast expanses of land uninhabitable within mere moments. Their existence alone is a stark reminder of the potential for human-made disaster on a scale unlike anything we've ever experienced before. Let's introduce 2 key players in this hypothetical scenario: India and Pakistan, 2 neighboring nations in South Asia, both armed to the teeth with nuclear weaponry, and both with a long history of conflict dating back over 7 decades. Their rivalry, rooted in religious, political, and territorial disputes, has resulted in several wars and countless skirmishes along their shared border. Imagine for a moment that this simmering tension escalates, spiraling out of control into a full-blown nuclear confrontation. The immediate impact would be devastating, of course, but it's the long-term effects that truly give pause for thought. The aftermath of such an event would be a world irrevocably changed, a world grappling with ecological disaster, economic collapse, and a humanitarian crisis on an unprecedented scale. But why these 2 nations specifically? What makes this scenario more plausible than, say, a conflict between other nuclear-armed nations? The answer lies in their volatile history, proximity, and the sheer number of people who would be directly affected. The consequences of such an event would be catastrophic, but to understand how, we need to delve into the causes first. So let's take a step back and examine the seeds of discord that have the potential to blossom into such a horrifying reality. The roots of the conflict between India and Pakistan can be traced back to their separation in 1947. This partition, a direct result of the British colonial rule, led to one of the largest mass migrations in human history, as millions of people crossed newly drawn borders to join their chosen nation. The hurried and haphazard division also left a legacy of territorial disputes, most notably over the region of Kashmir. This beautiful, high-altitude territory is claimed in its entirety by both countries, but is divided between them. It has been a flashpoint for conflict ever since, sparking several wars and countless skirmishes. The tension resulting from this dispute, coupled with political differences, has escalated over the decades. Both nations, now nuclear powers, have invested heavily in their military capabilities. This has given rise to a dangerous arms race, a perpetual cycle of one-upmanship, where each move is seen as a potential threat by the other. This tension, fueled by territorial disputes and political differences, has led to an arms race that could potentially culminate in a nuclear conflict. Now imagine a scenario where diplomacy fails and conflict escalates to the point of a nuclear war. The immediate aftermath of nuclear explosions is nothing short of cataclysmic. Cities, once bustling with life, are reduced to smoldering rubble within the blink of an eye. Skyscrapers that pierced the clouds crumble like sandcastles, the echoes of their fall drowned in the deafening roar of the blast. But it's not just the buildings and infrastructure that bear the brunt of this nuclear fury. In a flash, millions of lives are extinguished. Families, friends, neighbors, all gone in a moment of blinding light and searing heat. The sheer scale of the immediate loss of life is hard to comprehend. It's a tragedy of unparalleled proportions, one that leaves a gaping hole in the fabric of society that will take generations to mend. The landscape, once vibrant and teeming with life, is transformed into a desolate wasteland. The air is thick with radioactive dust, making it almost impossible to breathe. The once crystal-clear rivers and streams are now poisoned, their waters carrying deadly isotopes far and wide. And then there's the fallout. Invisible, yet deadly, it blankets the earth, contaminating everything it touches. Crops wither in the fields, livestock drops dead, and the few survivors are left to contend with a world that's been irrevocably poisoned. The sunsets in this post-nuclear world are hauntingly beautiful, painted in hues of red and orange by the particles suspended in the atmosphere. But they serve as a grim reminder of the devastation that's been wrought, a testament to the destructive power of the atom. The immediate aftermath of a nuclear war is a scene of unimaginable devastation. It's a glimpse into a world that we must strive to prevent at all costs. It's a stark reminder of the consequences of our actions, a warning from a future that we must do everything in our power to avoid. But the immediate devastation is just the beginning. The long-term effects are far more insidious. In the wake of nuclear war, the world would be plunged into what's known as a nuclear winter. Now you might wonder, what exactly is a nuclear winter? Well, to put it simply, it's a chilling scenario where the aftermath of a large-scale nuclear war drastically alters our planet's climate. This shift happens due to the enormous amounts of smoke and soot that would be released into the Earth's atmosphere following the detonation of nuclear weapons. These airborne particles, primarily from burning cities and industrial areas, would blanket the sky, blocking out sunlight and causing surface temperatures to plummet. Think of it as an extended sunless winter. But the cold is only part of the story. With less sunlight reaching the Earth's surface, photosynthesis would be severely hampered. This would have a domino effect, impacting agriculture and food production worldwide. Crops would fail, and food shortages would soon become a grim reality. We're talking about a potential global famine, a catastrophe on a scale we've never seen before, and it doesn't stop there. The drastic temperature drop would also disrupt weather patterns and precipitation cycles. This means less rain and fresh water, further compounding the agricultural crisis. The ocean's surface would cool, affecting marine life and sea currents, even potentially altering the very climate of the planet. It's important to understand that these effects wouldn't be confined to the nations directly involved in the nuclear conflict. Oh no, the impact of a nuclear winter would be felt worldwide. We live in an interconnected world, and something of this magnitude would have global implications. The nuclear winter scenario shows us the devastating long-term consequences of nuclear warfare. It's not just about immediate destruction and loss of life, it's about the lasting, profound changes that would scar our planet and threaten life as we know it. A nuclear winter would not only affect the warring nations, but would have global implications. The aftermath of a nuclear war would trigger an unimaginable humanitarian crisis. Visualize for a moment the long-term health effects of radiation exposure. The survivors, now forever marked by the invisible touch of radiation, would face a grim future. The immediate aftermath would witness acute radiation sickness, with symptoms like nausea, vomiting, and fatigue. But the true horror lies in the prolonged effects. Years, even decades after exposure, survivors would grapple with an increased risk of various cancers, genetic damage leading to birth defects in future generations, and a plethora of other health complications. Now let's turn our attention to the displacement of people. The nuclear explosions would render vast regions uninhabitable for centuries due to radioactive fallout. Millions would be forced to flee their homes, becoming refugees overnight. Picture the mass exodus, the desperation, the uncertainty. The world would witness a displacement crisis on a scale never seen before. And then there's the strain on global resources. With major agricultural lands poisoned by radiation, the world would face a severe food shortage. The pressure on unaffected regions to feed the displaced millions would be immense, potentially leading to resource-based conflicts. Clean water would become a luxury, as radioactive particles contaminate water sources. Medical facilities, already overwhelmed by the immediate casualties, would struggle to cope with the long-term health problems. The economic impact would be no less devastating. The cost of rehabilitation, healthcare, and providing basic necessities to the displaced would be astronomical. The global economy would reel under this burden, leading to a financial crisis that could take decades to recover from. Let's not forget the psychological trauma. The survivors and their descendants would carry the scars of the catastrophe, not just on their bodies, but in their minds. The collective trauma could shape societies for generations to come, fostering fear, mistrust, and despair. The world as we know it would be irrevocably changed. The scars of a nuclear war would run deep, shaping the course of human history forever. The cost of such a conflict is too great, the consequences too dire. It's a path we must strive to avoid at all costs. The picture painted is grim, but it's not inevitable. the bleak prospect of a nuclear conflict between India and Pakistan, or indeed any nations, underscores the importance of diplomacy and peaceful negotiations. It's not just about averting war, it's about fostering a global culture of mutual respect and understanding. International treaties play a vital role. They're the world's insurance policy, the safety net that binds nations to a commitment of peace and cooperation. From the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons to regional peace accords, these agreements are instrumental in preventing the unthinkable. But treaties alone are not enough. Global cooperation is essential. We all share this planet, and its fate is intertwined with our actions. We must work together, across borders and ideologies, to promote peace and security. The power to prevent such a catastrophe lies in our hands. The question is, will we use it wisely?